meet you and thank you for your time. Judging by the trailer and according to what you said in the past, the second chapter of the saga is much more faithful to the book than the first one was. Can you confirm it?
Yes, definitely. The first one was just kind of that classic case of people in charge not really knowing. And then they realized after the kind of backlash from the fans that they really do want the book. They aren't interested in this new version of After. They want their After and the thing that they love. So we really took that into account this time, and we made sure we kept a lot of the iconic scenes that they wanted. I think even from looking at the materials that we've posted, like the stills and the little sneak peeks, you can tell that those are directly from the book. There's always going to be changes, of course. Otherwise, the movie wouldn't really make any sense if we just put it straight up to the movie. But we did try, and we did succeed in making it a lot closer to the book than the first film.
Okay, something I noticed, and many fans too, is about the character of Zed, that in this film I think is less relevant than Trevor, despite from the book. Why did you choose to make this change about the screenwrite?
So this was a big discussion, kind of even in the first film. I spent a lot of time trying to push Zed to be more in the story, and no one really listened to me. So the second movie, we tried to course correct a little bit. But I mean, to be honest, even if it made the fans happy, it doesn't really make sense in the movie because Tessa and Zed don't really have any interaction. The scene that we filmed of them got deleted from the movie anyways. So it wouldn't really make sense for Tessa to all of a sudden go with somebody just like Hardin, you know, in that friend group. She doesn't have the same relationship with Steph as she does in the books. Like, it was just, the first one was a little too off course for us to put Zed back in. So we decided to kind of combine Trevor and Zed. The storylines are different and stuff, obviously, and it didn't really make sense knowing that Tessa was starting this new internship. She's wanting to move to Seattle. All these things are happening. Unfortunately, and I love the actor who plays Zed, and I love Zed as a character. And I know a lot of the fans are, I think that will be something that we hear a lot after the second movie, is that they miss Zed.
It's in the line with the story, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yes. According to many fans' opinion, the relation between Tessa and Harding is something like toxic, something like with no future. Do you agree with that interpretation, with that point of view?
I mean, yes and no. I agree that they have a very dysfunctional relationship. I mean, that's the whole plot of the story, is these two people that keep making mistakes and keep going through this cycle. I think I would say for everyone, if you have that opinion, it's my job to write it, and everybody can interpret it differently. But most of the time, the more like negative opinions come from people who haven't actually read the books, which can be frustrating because there is a period of an actual, literally, I wrote it into the story where they talk about how toxic their relationship is and how bad it is for both of them. And he goes to therapy and they move to different states. And it's like, I strongly disagree with this notion of glamorizing things. When you write something, it doesn't mean that you're approving of it or glamorizing it. You're just telling a story. But I would rather create something that people, that creates controversy and has people having conversations than if I wrote a book, if After would have been Hardin meets Tessa, he changes everything immediately, which is so unrealistic. Nobody would care about it. So I'd rather evoke intense emotions on both ends of the spectrum than just have it be a perfect love story where nobody makes mistakes, because that's not the way I want to tell stories.
The sequel looks more open about the sex aspect, more hot. Can you tell me why in the first movie you set a limit on this aspect?
Well, the US distributor made us make a PG-13 movie, but there was cinematography-wise, there was a certain look we were going for and a certain softness. We actually filmed a lot more sex scenes and more intimate scenes than were shown in the movie. The first one, we had to cut a lot down because of the rating. And the second one, we filmed the same amount of sex scenes. We don't have to cut them. So it seems way more intense. And that was on purpose because that is the book. The relationship a lot of their problems they fix by having sex, which doesn't fix the problem, but it's a part of their cycle. So their physical relationship is very important. It's not, if you take that aspect out of it, it's like half of a story. So for me, I fought pretty hard to make sure that the next one would be rated R. Not only for sex scenes, but just to show a more intimate, real version of these people.
It's just the natural evolution of a relationship.
Yes, exactly. It does a disservice to young people and older people, but especially young generations if we're making sex like this shameful, secretive thing for young girls, when in reality it's a natural part of life and they shouldn't feel shame. They should feel empowered and they should feel curious, and it's okay to be curious.
A movie is the fruit of a co-working team. As the author of the book, is there anything you thought was indispensable and been obliged to cut off the film?
Not necessarily for the second one, but there is a scene that I had a very different opinion for the ice skating scene of what it should be. And it was it was really one of the only times that we really creatively butt heads, because in my head it was just so different. But again, it is a collaboration, and I have only made 2 movies, so my answer is not always the best answer. But for that scene, it was one of those things where it is very different from the book, so I was like pushed really hard. But at the end of the day, it's just one scene in the movie, so the director kind of did his thing for that scene, and we'll see how the fans react. But that's probably the only one that I really was more like upset about.
Last thing about the third chapter. What can you tell me about that?
I can't really tell you anything, but I can say that the more people that support the movies and the more, buzz around it, the better for all of us. But just stay tuned and see what we're up to.